Some breaking news to get to now. The Department of Justice has released a report saying law enforcement's response to the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, was a failure. Joining us now, Tracy Walder, former CIA officer and FBI special agent, and also a NewsNation national security analyst. Tracy, not really a surprise here, but they're saying that the law enforcement demonstrated no urgency and there was cascading failures in the response on that tragic day. What do you make of this latest news?
As you mentioned, Marnie, thank you for having me. None of this is surprising, and really what I've said all along is one of the biggest failures here was failing to respond to this as an active shooting situation. Rather, they responded to it as a subject barricaded situation, which is why they waited that 77 minutes. And I am very much surprised that anyone would have initially even called it a barricaded subject situation, even after listening to the 911 calls, the body cam, and what was reported. This was very clearly an active shooter situation.
Right. And so the point now is, how do we make sure this never happens again, right? How do you prevent it? Based on the failures of that day, and there were many, and it was a layered approach, what do you think is applicable now in procedures moving forward, as we've seen more school shootings since then?
Well, in terms of procedures moving forward, in terms of schools, Texas, because of Uvalde, which happens to be where I live and where I teach, has passed a school safety bill in that we do have school resource officers at each school, as well as other safety implements that are in those schools. Also, we need to ensure that the local police force, not just the ones that are stationed at the school, are properly trained in active shooter situations, meaning to engage the target immediately, regardless of whether the door is locked. So I think those are several things that need to be put into place to ensure that a situation like Uvalde does not happen again.
So you talk about communication. That is one element of this latest report. The other is inadequate technology. How does that apply in this situation?
So in regards to inadequate technology, a lot of times what tends to happen is sort of more local law enforcement does not have appropriate access to technologies. Also, schools don't as well in terms of security. So in terms of this school, a lot of times schools will have digital markers on the doors to ensure that doors are closed. In the case of this school, as we know from a lot of reporting, the door was propped open and an alarm didn't sound as a result of that. Also, too, there weren't even keys to get into some of those doors. So this is a school issue as well in terms of securing the school, as well as a law enforcement issue, having access to appropriate technologies.
There is the accountability component of all of this, right? There were decisions that were made that were wrong that day and that cost lives. What does accountability look like as this investigation continues?
That's a great question. It's hard to answer. I mean, we know that really they did not make entry until Border Patrol actually responded. A federal law enforcement agency responded and told them that this was an active shooter situation. Really, the buck stops with the leader. And as a result, we do know that multiple people have, in fact, lost their jobs as a result of this. However, and as a former law enforcement officer, it's hard to talk about this, but I do think some accountability needs to be held with some of the law enforcement officers that are there. Just because you have a chain of command, which some of them have blamed the chain of command, doesn't mean you need to follow that chain of command when you know it's wrong. And so I do think that needs to be looked at as well.
Tracy Walder, thank you for your perspective on this important and concerning ongoing issue for our schools and for our nation. Again, the Justice Department saying police officials who responded to the deadly shooting at Uvalde demonstrated no urgency. And as we all tragically recall, 19 students and 2 teachers lost their lives that day at Robb Elementary School. 17 others were injured but survived.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.